what I said, and that's what I think.
And why not say more? Because of the reaction, or you
Well,
think
because it's been said. I
it's
just
complete?
think, yeah, because I just think also that this is sort of this age of like a friend of mine said, you said what you said. Anybody asking you more about this is just trying to sort of stoke outrage and make it more of a thing, and which was never my intention, right? I said what I said. It's what I believe. It's what I still believe. But then having people say to me, tell me more, tell me more. I'm just like, no. And also, I have a full life. There are many, many things I'm interested in. And yeah.
When people have thought about that particular issue in gender
Yeah.
and sex, there's a lot of talk now about J.K. Rowling and how she's continued to share views and be very alive on platforms such as Twitter to this particular topic. But there's now a bit more of people in the public eye who've worked with her coming forward to say exactly about freedom of speech, that why has she been treated in this way? Why has there been this? And I wonder if things are changing or turning. I don't know what your take is. I don't know if have you ever spoken to her about this?
No, I haven't spoken to her, but I read, so when I started reading about how she was being attacked, I then went and read what she'd written, which I thought was perfectly reasonable, and I did not see why she needed to be attacked. And I think that she's been treated abominably. And I think a lot of that treatment is because she's a woman. I think that a man who aired his views, reasonable views, would not be treated in that way. And there is also something I think very dangerous about refusing to engage with what she said, but instead making it and sort of hurling insults. When I read her, I remember reading what she'd written and underlining bits because
this is the essay on sex and gender.
Yeah, underlining bits of it because some young people in Lagos had said, "Oh, she's terrible. She's transphobic. She wants to kill trans people," and so I said to them, "Where does it say that here?" And I don't even mean in a literal sense because there are ways that you can read something to mean something else, but none of them could point it out to me.
And I suppose this goes to one of the essays you wrote called It's Obscene. You talk about cancel culture and lots of other things in there. But you do express this concern. This particular quote, you say, "We have a generation of young people on social media so terrified of having the wrong opinions that they've robbed themselves of the opportunity to think and to learn and to grow."
Yep.
You talk to young people, you lecture them. I saw recently you told them to get offline for 3 weeks and read some books. But it's a serious issue, and I know you're probably thinking about it as well as a parent. But
yes.
What can we do about this?
We can try being adults. I sometimes feel as though we have abdicated our responsibility as the grown-ups because I know what it was like to be young. I thought I knew everything. Now I look back, I'm like, I knew nothing. I was wrong in many of my sort of fierce positions. And I was fortunate that when I was young, there were adults who were willing to tell me, "You're actually really not right about that. Here's what you should think about differently." That's not happening now. We're also not saying to young people, you cannot, so I remember talking to students at a university in the US, and it really made me sad because first of all, we meet and we're sort of I'm asking them questions, and it felt as though they were repeating party lines in a way about just general issues. I think it's tough for them. And I just, so I sort of did a little preaching, and I said, can we all agree on compassion? Can we all agree that, not everyone means harm? Can we all agree that people can learn and people change? Just sort of basic things that we seem to have forgotten, I think, There are lots of things I don't know. There are things that I don't understand. And again, not to go back to the famous trans woman is a trans woman, I thought I was saying something obvious. I did not mean to offend anyone. But later I thought, wait, what have I missed? Things I don't understand. So I went back and I started reading things because I just thought I really didn't understand what the noise was about. And so I think about young people, and I'm sure there are many people in my position, which is to say, do not know the orthodoxy, right? And who should be given a chance to know it and then choose whether to accept it or reject it. I don't think that they're giving that chance.
Yeah, well, and also they don't feel they have the space necessarily to have those conversations. A lot of people want to hear, I suppose, where your feminism is up to, and I wonder, because feminism in that time is less of a dirty word. Certainly in the Western world, it's being sold as a brand. It's by fashion, by the media, but I wonder if it has achieved what it's meant to have achieved yet.
No, of course not. It's not going to achieve it in the next 100 years. It took a long time for us to get here. I mean, we've had really human history, the sort of the length of time that we've been here on Earth. We've had men sort of be in charge. And if we're going to achieve equality, it's going to take a long time. So that it doesn't, I think for me, maybe the question I would be interested in is, are we taking a few steps forward?
But at the same time, we're seeing marching, we're seeing protests. And, you know, since the death of Mahsa Amini in Iran, who was held by Iran's morality police for not covering her hair properly, she died on the 16th of September. Those protests are carrying on, led by women in Iran, and also in Afghanistan, women trying to go back to university or their jobs since the Taliban took over. It's very striking. There's a footage going of a few women being whipped by Taliban members.
I saw that this morning
outside
on BBC.
of university,
Yep.
but chanting "women, life, freedom," which is the same words chosen by women in Iran. And while it's awful what's being denied, there's also something in what's being said.
Oh, I find it enormously inspiring. I think that they are just absolute stars. I mean, there's particularly the women in Iran and Afghanistan, because you think about what they're standing up against, and I felt that whipping video is such a dramatic sort of example of what their lives are like. But they're still pushing back. I just find it so inspiring. And the women in Iran, when they're cutting their hair and they're throwing the thing in the fire, I actually was weeping watching one of the videos.
It was incredibly emotional to see. And also, it's happening now.
Yeah,
you know,
now,
to get your head around that as well. I always wondered if you found it frustrating that some came to your work through Beyonce as opposed to finding you themselves.
You know, I mean, No, I'll tell you one of the reasons that I was happy to say yes.
This is because just to say, if people don't know, she took some of your words, sampled some of your words for a song.
Yes, it's because I thought that she has such a huge following that there are going to be people who've never heard the word feminism, never thought about it, who will because of this. And for me, that's a wonderful thing. But to have people come to my readings and say, "Oh, I never heard about you," then I heard you on Beyonce, and then they don't want to ask me anything about my books. They want to ask me, "So Beyonce," that doesn't interest me very much.
It doesn't work for you, Chimamanda. That's not the way this is going to work.
No, but I think also there's a part of me that just I feel this way about films as well. When people say, "Oh, it's fantastic, your book was made into a film," and I'm thinking, it's nice, but I wrote the bloody book. I want to talk about books. I want books to be cool. I want to be excited about books, you know? And we're just not. And I just feel deeply, deeply annoyed by that.
But it's whether we have the wrong heroes and how we look at the world is an important thing to us.
I do. I agree. And also what the responsibility that those heroes have. And I'm wary of talking about this because I do not like people telling me you're a role model, therefore you should not do this. But I think, for example, that Beyonce making the decision, and people can think what they will about talking about feminism, I think is a really good thing. Because, and I know for a fact that there are many young people who, because of that, suddenly, I know relatives, young nieces, who, Auntie talks about feminism, Auntie writes books. Beyonce talks about feminism, they're like, I'm a feminist. And now they're making what they think are feminist arguments. And I think it's fantastic because, conversations are happening.
Well, it's good to hear that Beyonce helped you get closer to your family.
No, among a certain sort of cohort of the family, they suddenly thought, Auntie's not too bad.
She's okay.
Yeah, she's, she's tolerable now.
What are you working on now?
I cannot tell you.
You can't tell me. No. You don't like saying it, do you? Till it's done. Okay, but writing, I imagine, or okay. The creativity, though, has it come back since your daughter? Is it coming?
It's slowly coming back.
But I think, again, that's amazing for women in particular to be able to hear you say that because, again, it's not something that's talked about,
Yeah,
the long after effects.
Yes, yes. I think it's really important to talk about. And also to talk about it knowing that we love that we had the gift of motherhood and,
Yes.
and babies, and
It
we
is
adore
such
them.
a gift if you want
It is. So, it really is. It really is. But we should talk about the other things, because nobody told me about I had horrible joint pains in my fingers, and nobody told me about the constipation. And I just feel like we need to talk about these things. And you laugh at when I say constipation, which apparently is the puzzling response I get from other people as well. No, we should talk about. I personally was shocked, and I was like, "What's happening?" And my husband is a doctor, and he was sort of, "Oh, you didn't know?" And I wanted to punch his face. I was like, "Of course I didn't know."
Well, there's two types of constipation here. There's the literal and the creative. So we've covered both.
I like that. That's actually fantastic.
Chimamanda, thank you very much for talking to me and to all of us today.
I've said.
Hello, wherever you're watching this one from, brothers and sisters. Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. I can't get enough of her work. In fact, she confronts matters as they are. She boldly participates in some very controversial topics, and of course she shares her mind as she sees it. Something that has placed her at international platforms, and especially when she is interviewed by the white media, there is always this particular notion that you see there is an ulterior motive towards a given topic of discussions. They would want to see, or they would want to hear what she thinks, and therefore they can make a whole deal out of it. But then who is she? Reserved, aware, and very keen and sensitive of her surrounding, of what exactly happening. And Chimamanda has always, time and time again, remember, she has been advocating for black liberation, and of course that the white supremacy and the white privileges suppressing the blacks, especially in the US, and also these particular stereotypical aspects that you see blacks and any person of color that comes across in the US, and not only in the US, and in the Western or European countries. She's of the idea that strongly she's a strong feminist. She stands for that, even as she's from what exactly you've heard. And I do not really to dilute any of what she has said, but if you just feel me and you got something out of this particular video, do drop me your comments on the comment section. Let me know what you think of Chimamanda, what position she holds in the community, and of course, do we need more of Chimamanda, and what will that mean to the future of Americans and also the Africans in the diaspora at large? I go by Lit. Let's meet in the next upload. Stay safe.